Let's take a really good look at what you can do to these beautiful leaves that are coming inside the Harvest Home Garland kit. Even though this is a Garland kit, I'm a scrapbooker and I chose to use these leaves for my Lovely Florals scrapbook kit, and I'll be using more leaves for a future kit next month. But let me show you all the great ways on how you can use these leaves on your crafting projects. Whether you keep them clean or you want to sponge and distress them, there's a lot of fun things we can do. We're talking over 200 leaves per kit, and it's really a time saver that you can just take them and punch them out. It's that easy. I kind of kept them all on the sheet until I went to use them, and that was the easiest way for me to play around. But you definitely want to purchase these. It's such a great deal. All right, let's talk about how we're using it. First of all, you want to keep it clean. There's nothing you need to do. We can easily just punch them out and use them as they are. If you like to bend them a little bit, just use the creases of or follow the design that are on the leaves to just punch them, or not really punch them, but bend them and crumple, just adding a little bit of dimension. What I like to do is actually put a pop dot or a foam tape underneath so that they are elevated, as you can see here on the layout. So you can see that I have them popped up a little bit, and it really makes it easy. And here's where you can see I crumpled it up just a tad on the page. So that's real simple and sweet. Now, when it comes to some of the other layouts, there's actually some blue leaves, and I wanted to add a little bit of depth to them. So I like to actually take a sponge dauber and add a little bit of color just to the edges, real softly. But I can also follow those little lines that are in the leaf and use them as a guide for veins and adding some detail. And I still like to punch it up or pop it up on top of my layout. So now you can see how I've done that look, and you can use all of the different colors that are in the leaves and change them out as well to a different look if you'd like. But this is how I've done the blues. So I've actually added more color than you see here, and I really like using a larger sponge for that, and I'll show you that in another one. But here you can just see how I used it just around the edges as well as the veins on there. Just continuing on, you see how I changed the color out? So instead of like a really soft beigey color, I decided to use maybe pecan pie or early espresso and softly did the edges. But now you can see how I've used the vines or the lines and sponge them, and it just adds that extra dimension, even here on the green ones. So that's what I mean with the colors. You can take a lighter leaf like this green and use the Mossy Meadow ink, and it definitely will distress it into that darker color. So let's talk about how we got this look right here. Love that. So I'm taking this leaf, this maple leaf that you see here, and you can see it's a really fun, it's like a rosemary color, or sage, like a fun, different kind of a green. But what I've done is I'm taking water, spritzing my leaf, and then I'm going to crumple it up. So you can do this to all of your leaves, even the metallic leaves. The next thing you do is let it sit out, or use your heat tool to dry it. All right, now you can see my leaf has been crumpled. I could actually crumple it a little bit more, but there's a couple of things we can do here. I'm going to use the pecan pie ink. And if you have a nice hefty sponge, that helps too. Sometimes if you'd like to do that kind of a look, I love to do that around the edges. But I can take this and pounce it right on the leaf, and I just love that. If I want to capture a little bit more detail, I can use my sponge maybe change the color of the stem or just add a little bit more color to the ends. Now, I might want to do this along the edge of a light colored leaf too, right? But I'm not done with it. Let's try Timid Tiger and see how that looks. Oh, it gives it such a cool burnt color. And because I want to add a little bit more depth, I'm just going to pick that color up right here. If you have Cajun Craze, you're going to get more of a rust color. But isn't that just gorgeous when you play around and you're using your inks to capture some of those details that you did? Now, of course, if you didn't want to pounce and you wanted to use your sponge to catch color, you can, but you're just not going to get this really cool rustic look that you're finding on these leaves. Now, I really enjoyed doing that look right here, as you can see on this particular layout, which is using the Autumn Toile papers and those gorgeous leaves to capture that stunning look that you're seeing here. Now, using the Elements of Texture stamp, I've taken the cling stamp and I've put it on a block and I want to stamp my leaf. Now, you can use any kind of a background stamp that you have in your stash for something like this. So you can take your Cajun Craze, you can take your Timid Tiger, you might even like to do it in the pecan pie, and I'm just going to stamp right on top. It doesn't matter if it's upside down, inside out, or whatever. It's just a design. So whatever background stamp, a plaid, line, stashes that you like, splatters, that works so well. Then you can also add color. Now, not just on the edges, but this is what I like doing here on this one. I'm going to use the sponge to add that color more inside the edges than just the edge itself. And that really gives it a nice highlighted look in the middle. But I want to add a little bit more. So here's my pecan pie. And let's just try it, because you can always add, you can't take away. But if I just want to add that burnt color just to those edges, look at the difference that you get right here when you do that just to that edge versus keeping it just one color. But if you want to add a little bit more this way, it also works. I think you're going to have a lot of fun playing around with these leaves. Isn't that cool? I just love the way that comes out. And that's just using the different textured stamps that you have with the words or a background stamp that you might own. So here you can see, right here I've done it, and here you can see it. Now this leaf right here is so fun because we didn't actually add any texture with a stamp. We're just going to use our sponges, just like I've shown you. Let me see if I have one here. Here, we'll take this one. And we're going to use our pecan pie. And we're going to also use the early espresso, just to give you those wonderful details of color and dimension. You could use a finger dauber for this. I really do like the sponges like this. You can also use the brushes for a softer look. So if you have any of these kinds of brushes, you can use them as well. But I want to go back now and maybe add a little bit more of that brown on the inside. Okay, now let's just say you did this and you're like, that's too dark. Flip it over and play with the other side. So instead of using the brown the way I just did by what I call smushing all over, let's just use it along those edges. So I love the fact that you can use either side of these leaves and get that kind of a look. But I love that you have that whiter center and it just makes it pop, and then you can go further and just bend it a little bit. You want to do a little more, crumple it a little bit without it being wet. Isn't that just a lovely look? Whatever you decide to do, the stamping is quite fun to add that as well. And I think I just want to add that little bit of color right down that middle there. So cool. These are some great looks. I still have one more to show you. Another great look that I've created on these is to bronze my gold metallic leaves. Okay, let's just show you so you can see a close-up. It's definitely a change of color, and it's so easy to do. Really easy, and I'm so glad that I did this because it was fun. I actually did it with early espresso ink, and I know I'm going over everything, right? But when I was doing this, I found it really didn't do much. But when I pounced on this metallic leaf, yep, I get my finger. Probably picking up my fingertips there. And I'm going to do this one. I haven't played with the pecan pie on it, but let's just see what it does. It's probably just going to be very subtle. Okay, I'm going to get those out of the way. Now the key here is to heat it. So I'm going to use, so now you can see that color, right? Look how rich that is. And I want to heat set it to dry it, and it kind of burnishes it. So I wanted to show you very little at all comes off once you do that. If you don't do that and you swipe it, you're really taking all the ink off, right? So that's why by heating it, it really gives it a gorgeous, gorgeous look. So you can still crumple it a little bit and work with it, pop it up, but I just love the way that comes out. So there you have it, all the different ways of how you can use these leaves on your projects. Whether you keep them clean, you sponge them, you crumple them, you bronze them, or kind of change the look out a little bit. They're just gorgeous, just to play with the different leaves and how you can have fun with this whole project, stamping, adding lots of color, so many great ways to enjoy the Harvest Home Garland Wreath Kit and using these leaves on your projects.